Bonjour tout le monde. Aujourd'hui, on va discuter le passé composé et l'imparfait quand on utilise un et quand on utilise l'autre. C'est pas tout sur how to form the passé composé and how to form l'imparfait. I'll go over that in other videos that I'll link here. We'll do a little bit of review of how to form each verb tense, but this is more with the assumption that you know how to do each one, and now we're trying to figure out and become masters of when to use each one, how to choose between the two in a sentence. Pour aujourd'hui, nous allons discuter qu'est-ce que c'est la grande différence entre le passé composé et l'imparfait. Quels sont les autres exemples de l'utilisation entre le passé composé et l'imparfait? Quelles sont quelques clés pour choisir entre le passé composé et l'imparfait? Et puis, on va finir par regarder quelques exemples et par pratiquer ensemble. Ok, alors voilà la plus grande différence entre le passé composé et l'imparfait. If you think about all of our tenses on a timeline, up here you have anything happening in the present tense. Here we have past tense. It gets confusing because le passé composé and l'imparfait are both past tenses, but it's not quite as simple as that. When we have the passé composé, we want to think about it as a dot on a timeline, a thing that even if we don't remember what day or time it happened, if we needed to, we could pin it down to a specific day or time. Not that we necessarily know the exact time, exact date of everything, but it's like a one-time event that happened, right? Imparfait are things that take up, so to speak, a chunk of the past tense. So these would be descriptions in the past tense that are ongoing, things where you could say that you used to do something, so a habitual action in the past or a repeated action in the past. So some examples of that to keep in mind. For passé composé, an example like this in English, I ate cereal for breakfast this morning. When we write that in French, that would be le passé composé. J'ai mangé des céréales pour le petit déjeuner ce matin, right? This is a one-time thing. I can pinpoint it to this morning. Not that I need to remember exactly what time I ate breakfast, but there would be kind of a possible timestamp, so to speak. On the other hand, if I were writing this sentence in French, it would be l'imparfait. I ate eggs for breakfast when I was in high school. These are both past tense. The morning is past tense. So is high school for me. But the key difference here is that we could replace ate with used to eat. Even if it doesn't say that, it would logically make sense to say I used to eat eggs for breakfast when I was in high school. That's a great clue that we're going to use l'imparfait instead. That's why here we have je mangeais des œufs pour le petit déjeuner quand j'étais au lycée. Right? It wouldn't make sense to say I used to eat cereal for breakfast this morning. We know in our brains that used to doesn't work with something as specific as this morning, so that can be a helpful tool to decide to use l'imparfait. Another example of le passé composé, I woke up at 6 a.m. Literal timestamp here, but it is like a one-time thing. You're asleep and then you're not, right? Well, we can argue about being sleepy, but you know what I mean, right? So this is an example of le passé composé. Je me suis réveillée à 6 heures. Right? On the other hand, for l'imparfait, we would see an example of that with when I woke up, it was raining, right? We still have I woke up being passé composé, but now we're describing something that was happening at the same time. So this is a great example of a place where you'll see two past tenses in the same sentence. Quand je me suis réveillée, il pleuvait. There are some other times to use l'imparfait rather than passé composé. I think it's easier to think about it as defaulting to passé composé instead of, and then thinking about when to switch to l'imparfait. It's a little bit easier to sort it out in my head like that. So other times where you would use imparfait to describe past actions rather than passé composé is for past actions that are repeated and or routine. So for example, if I'm telling you about how I had swim meets every Wednesday and Saturday growing up, that would be l'imparfait. If I'm describing past physical or mental states, that would also be l'imparfait. You can think about this if that helps. It's hard to pinpoint the exact moment you started having a headache or the exact moment you started feeling a certain way. So that's another reason why it's l'imparfait. So examples of sentences that would be in the l'imparfait if we were to translate them into French. would be I was really nervous before my final exams, or I had a migraine last night. And lastly, past actions that took place during an unspecified period of time. So if it happened for a long time, or it happened just kind of more this vague sense, especially sentences where it says when I was younger, when I was little, that's another good giveaway for l'imparfait. So this example in French would also be l'imparfait rather than passé composé. Reminders about the structure. Passé composé, you're always going to see two words if it's written correctly. There will be a helping verb. Usually it's avoir, sometimes it's être, and then it will be the past participle of the verb that you need to do in the past tense. Whereas imparfait will be one word. So when we're looking at those, we have that visual cue about the differences. And as a quick reminder, that'll be the new form of the verb you need to conjugate for the past, dropping the ONS, and then adding your imparfait ending. AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IEZ, AIENT. If this is all very fast and feeling not super familiar, please click the links to go to more in depth about each of those. So here's an example of what a sentence in the passé composé would look like. J'ai regardé de la télévision hier soir, right? We have our helping verb, et, right here. We have avoir conjugated for je. And then we have our past participle. Quick reminder, our past participle of ER verbs comes from dropping the ER and replacing it with E accent aigu. On the other hand, if I wanted to say, je regardais beaucoup d'Arthur quand j'étais petite, this is what it would look like for imparfait, because I'm talking about an unspecified period of time. I'm saying when I was little. I'm not necessarily counting what exact years I watched Arthur. And here we can see we have a one-word conjugation that ends in AIS. Let's do another one. I could say, elles ont nagé le week-end passé. Here we have our helping verb, avoir, and then our past participle, nager. Again, we see the E with the accent aigu. Whereas on the other hand, if I needed to say, elle nageait chaque jour, cet été passé, then we would have this one-word answer with the AIENT ending. A couple of clues to help you. First one is very easy. Être will almost always be in l'imparfait. I say almost always because I'm afraid that there will be an exception, but you can be pretty certain that if you are using the verb être, it will be in l'imparfait. I'm not going to read each of these out to you, but it is helpful to pause here and maybe jot a few of these down. These are good clues for when you're talking about imparfait and passé composé, right? You'll notice that passé composé, we have a lot of units of time that are our clues, that's what we're going to use, right? Or a lot of things that describe a quick or a sudden action, right? Soudain, tout à coup, tout d'un coup, okay? Or steps in a process. D'abord, ensuite, enfin, finalement. Whereas on imparfait, we have a lot of clues that have to do with repeated actions or habitual, right? Things like chaque, or when we add le before weekend or a day of the week, that changes it to on Mondays or on Tuesdays or on the weekends. We see a lot of tu, right? Every day, always in the past. And a lot of things that describe habitual or routine actions. En général, généralement, normalement, d'habitude, so on and so forth. Okay. So we're going to end with a little bit of practice. I'm going to give you 4 sentences. They're in English. You don't need to translate them yet. We'll do that on our next slide. But here I want you to pause and look at your notes. And based on what we've gone over, give your best guess whether each one would be passé composé or imparfait. You should have a reason why for each of them. I'll read them out, then we'll go over it together. We have this summer, I went to Barcelona. It was a really fun trip. Every morning I had 2 coffees. On my flight home, I watched a movie. Right. Let's start with this one. This summer, I went to Barcelona. If you said passé composé, ça c'est correct, félicitations. Right. I could tell you the exact days that I went. It's a specific period of time. And what about it was a really fun trip? It would be l'imparfait. I'm giving a description of it. Really tell you the moment it started or stopped being fun. And then as a reminder, être or to be will almost always be in l'imparfait. And then every morning I had 2 coffees. That would also be l'imparfait because I'm saying every morning, right? So it's a repeated habitual action. This last one, on my flight home, I watched a movie. That would be passé composé. Again, I think it's easier to think about defaulting to passé composé and then looking for your exceptions to switch to l'imparfait, but whatever works best for you. Let's end with a little bit more practice. Pour chaque phrase ici, s'il vous plaît, traduisez ce phrase en français en choisissant entre le passé composé et l'imparfait. Right? So first thing that you want to do after I read the sentence is think to yourself whether it would be passé composé or l'imparfait, and then translate it into French accordingly. So we have, I was tired yesterday. They had a math test. We won the game. And my dad called me when I was leaving school. So they're all past tense. In English, there's not really that distinction to look for, so you have to look for the context clues. I'm going to have you go ahead and pause, look at your notes, decide which tense each of these should be, and then write out your translation. Hopefully now when you're restarting or just playing it through, you're ready to see the results. All right. So for I was tired yesterday, we have a description, so we know it's going to be in imparfait. We also know because we see was, which is to be. So we have j'étais fatigué hier. They had a math test. We don't have a reason necessarily to put this in imparfait, right? We could tell you the time of the math test if we really needed to, so we have it in passé composé. Ils ont eu un examen de maths. 3, we won the game. Ça c'est aussi passé composé. Nous avons gagné le match. Right? You could find the time that the buzzer went off at the end to show the end of the game. This last one is tricky. It has 2 examples. It helps. Within this sentence, we have 1 example of passé composé and 1 example of l'imparfait. We use l'imparfait to set the scene for something else. So my dad called me when I was leaving school. Mon père m'a appelé quand je partais de l'école. So my dad called me. Again, you could, if you needed to, look back at your phone record, see what time that happened. Quand je partais de l'école. Here, this one is imparfait because it is kind of a background action for this other, more specific thing happening in the past. Ça c'est tout pour maintenant. This can be tough. It is an ongoing battle. It is something that I still check sometimes myself for when I am translating things. So do your best. Don't get too overwhelmed. And just know that if you're saying it in the past tense, people will know what you mean. So just focus on that and use your clues to help you figure out passé composé versus l'imparfait. Merci.